I said, Rose, if only 3 or 4 people were coming, I'd say maybe it's not time to do this. But nobody's coming. I know we're doing the right thing. I said, we just got to hang in with this. So we kept giving each other the talk. It took a year. We hung in it for a year. We kept talking about it from the pulpit, where I was working at the time, talking about it. After a year of meeting once a month, people started coming. It came in droves, and they haven't stopped since. That's how it started.
Growing up in Long Island, in a modern Orthodox community, having seen and being exposed to substance abuse, at least on a recreational level, by friends and family members, and just kind of seeing it on a regular basis, I became interested in what happens with individuals who are unable to engage with it in a healthy way.
It just took some time for people to get used to the idea that, number one, we had this problem. Number two, there was something you could do about it. Number three, to be bold enough to walk into a Jewish space and say, help me, to overcome that shame barrier. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing. We call it the Shanda barrier, was a big deal. In those days, man, Jews did not have this problem. We didn't want to talk about it. People were not talking about it. We just started talking about it. It took about a year for people to timidly begin to come. And then they started coming.
There used to be a song in Yiddish that was sung that a shikar is a goy, that drunkenness or alcoholism was something that was not part of our culture, was not part of our makeup. But when kids start dying over and over because of overdoses or because of usage of pills that their parents may have, so communities have thankfully been opening themselves up to the possibility that there needs to be a new way of treating it. But for all the positive change that are going on, there's still a drastically large dereliction of focus on drug addiction in the Jewish community, in my humble opinion.
It's different only that it's like smoking. It's like a really hard addiction. Nicotine is a really hard addiction. Heroin is a really hard physical addiction. It's different because of that.
They're calling it an epidemic. We're seeing a lot of young people come in with heroin addiction that don't really have the markings of what you would expect to see a heroin addict have, or quote-unquote a junkie have. These are children from, different socioeconomic communities. It's low class, middle class, upper class. There's no distinctions. So that's kind of the startling part of it right now.
So in my group, nobody comes in there like as a heroin addict, and it's such a unique, particular profile. Most everybody there abused drugs, abused alcohol, abused food, abused sex, abused gambling. It's a general kind of profile, So most of the people that come to the meetings have a lot of experience with dry drugs, wet drugs, snorting drugs, shooting drugs, drinking drugs. People have experience of it's not such a separate thing in my group. Though nowadays, it is true that a lot of the younger people have more experience with heroin than the older people do. That's true.
Now, a culture that has been victim to drug abuse and alcoholism for a long time, now that shame might not play a role in preventing somebody from getting help. The Jewish community, for whatever reason, has not had at least an overt exposure to these substances and to addictions, so I think the shame is still stronger right now. I think for a lot of communities it runs in the face of what we would like to hope Jewish values are, but part of the major issue there is that the perspective of addiction is still the old-fashioned perspective of the choice model, where an individual chooses to use the drug or chooses to continue using the drug even though the family members are suffering from it, even though the consequences are there. Once we utilize the disease model, which really is a medical model where there's a disease as well as symptoms and we have treatment available. So then I believe the shame should, at least in theory, be lifted, and that is happening in the Jewish communities now, slowly but surely.
Even when he's using, he keeps in touch with me. But when he's using, he stays away from the meeting. He's ashamed. And he also feels he's not ready for the meeting. And I try to turn that thought around for him. I say, no, you come to the meeting. That'll help you get ready. That'll help you be ready. Because the only requirement to come to the meeting is the desire to be clean. I said, you have that desire, you come to the meeting. But he stays away when he's using. And we couldn't love him more. And he couldn't be more welcome. But he's got a serious deal. I talked to him the other day, and one of the things he said to me was, he said, Rabbi, he says, I've been at this a long time, it seems. I feel old. He says, everybody I know, everybody I ran with is dead. That's what he said to me. He's not 30 years old. So parts of his family are coming to our meeting now. The meeting also, we also have family members come. So that's another entry to him, that people who are close to him are coming to the meeting. So we keep a chair for him, is the way we say it. He has a chair there. He knows he has a chair there.
A lot of the tenets of what works in recovery treatments, a 12-step program, if you will, those lend themselves to any theological or spiritual value system. So there's really no discrepancy between the 12-step treatment process and some of the ethical or moral values that are taught or expressed within Jewish spirituality. In particular, though, what I find to be incredibly helpful for my clients is the stream of Jewish spirituality that's kind of found in either Jewish mysticism or Hasidic teachings, in the sense that a person engages a level of meaning beyond what they experience in the day-to-day. So if we begin to look at the reasons for a person using substances and seeking relief outside of themselves, so we could begin to reevaluate how a person looks at their lives, and instead of being caught up in the day-to-day struggle of the ups and downs of daily life, we can find a place of serenity, if you will, or mindfulness. These are some key terms that are thrown around nowadays. But a person could cultivate for themselves a safe place within themselves or within their family unit, within their nuclear Jewish community, to be comfortable and open and allow themselves to be vulnerable, as opposed to trying to be something that they're not. So that level of acceptance, which is particularly expressed in 12-step processes, is also found in, anywhere from Talmudic knowledge, from Old Testament to Jewish mysticism in the here and now. Just like addiction is everywhere and substances are everywhere, recovery is everywhere as well. St. Louis, Missouri in particular, is a large 12-step community. There's a lot of treatment centers in tri-state areas. There are treatment centers that are directly related to Judaism and offer a Jewish approach in particular, if that's something that somebody's looking for. But if anybody knows anybody who's struggling with this, we're not looking at a behavioral issue, we're looking at a disease, and the shame and the guilt or the hiding or the need to cover up only serves to perpetuate the issue.